I can. Can you hear me? We should be testing this. Okay. Okay. Right, but I I don't think I'm getting audio. I can't hear anybody else. Can you try to speak?
Okay. Taran, can you hear? Hello? Can you hear me? It's just a test speaking. Am I audible? Okay. Okay. Thank you. A very, very good evening to all the students, faculty, and the working professionals who have joined us today to this UX Design Expert-led hands-on workshop by NASCOM. Our expert today is Tarang Gopal. I will, in a few minutes, introduce her as well. Please bear with us as I see a lot of students who are walking into our classroom right now. So in about exactly 4 to 5 minutes from now, we will start with the session. So thanks very much all of you for your patience, and we'll just start shortly. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today. We will now begin the session, and allow me to introduce Tarang Gopal. And before that, I would like to say that this session has been organized by NASSCOM Future Skills in collaboration with Adobe. Both these partners, NASSCOM, Adobe, NASSCOM along with Adobe and the government, we have all come together on a mandate of skilling the students and working professionals on creativity. Now, as all of you know, that how important creativity is as a skill, especially as and more we are moving towards the automation, creativity has become a very important skill. And very recently, the National Education Policy 2020 that was launched laid an important stress on the importance of creativity as a skill, having creativity as a part of students curriculum. So that's why NASSCOM Future Skills has taken it upon us to bring it as part of students curriculum, to drive the skilling as much as we can, so that all our talent here, the young talent that we have, they have this skill, they can use it to their best. Now, under this, this creativity skill, the particular sub skill that we have picked upon, we are focusing upon is UX design, that is user experience design. And I'm really delighted to invite Ms. Tarang Uppal, who is the UX UI consultant based in London, who has joined us for the session today. She will be talking with us. A little bit introduction about her. She's a digital and UX designer, and she is very interested in user trends, latest industry practices, and the technologies that are meeting the users and business needs. She's quite engaged in creating visual journeys, brands, products, and platforms that are intuitive, cutting edge, and emotionally impactful. On that note, Tarang, I'm going to hand it over to you. And we're all very keen to hear it from you about the user experience design and the principles that you're going to talk about today. Over to you, Tarang, please. Tarang, you're talking on the mute. If you could unmute yourself.
Right. Sorry
Thanks.
about that. Hello. Uh, Good evening, everyone. This is Tarang on the line. And today we are here to discuss a little bit about UX design and how we are, engulfed in like a whole arena of UX design and how it is a very big part of our everyday life as of now. And what we are here to discuss today is the research section that goes into the whole UX design process and how important that is to a designer, and in a way connected to each and every sphere, which is in a way connected to the UX design sphere as such. So as we go ahead, we will see that how each and every aspect of engineering, computer science, and different aspects are a part of UX design. And it's not just limited to something like, a wireframe or a user journey or a particular testing, role or something. But we'll find out that how it's a part of each and every different occupation that we can lay our eyes on literally around us.
Tarang,
So,
just sorry to interrupt you, Tarang. Since we have
yeah,
a lot of young students here, I think it would be
yeah.
really interesting to hear about your story also, a few minutes, like, what you did and how you reached here, a little bit about your career graph. That would
Right.
be inspiring for all of us to know, because the student cohort that we have here it's a mix of tech students and the non-tech background students also. So they would love to relate to how you took up this stream and how you are here, and what kinds of things you're doing. Just something that they can connect with. Sorry, thanks a lot.
Course, Swati. Thank you for that. So I would start by saying that I am a design professional to start with. I have a basic degree in foundation of visual communication, and then followed by the master's in visual communication as well, where I specialized in UX and UI design, and it was a part of my thesis as well at that point. And so it gave me a very good idea throughout my bachelor's about visual design, typography, and colors, and all the visual design aspects that go towards the UI of all of the apps and websites and all of the digital media that we have around us. But what I would really like to stress on is that as I went along in my journey as a graphic designer, I realized that I am really very interested in learning more and more about UX design as such, and how I can collaborate that into my design process, being a graphic designer or visual designer per se. So while I had a good background in different fields of design, such as photography, even animation, and illustration as well, what I really learned towards my masters was that it's a really big realm of understanding user experience, and it's like it doesn't have any end to it. As we pass through our life, and we complete our education and then move on into a job, it's a day of every day is a day of learning, and it never stops, especially in something like UX design. As I've mentioned on my slide as well, it's like a phoenix, you could say that every design that you create is bound to become obsolete at the end of the day, or in another 2 months or 6 months or so, and then it would be time to actually reanalyze where everybody is standing at that point, how your user has changed as such, and how we need to change our product in order to be on the same page with the user once again. So for example, I would say that now that we are in corona times, and all of our shopping habits have changed. All of the shops are shut down at so many places, and there is even more and astronomical importance given to web and online based shopping and online based services, including online classes and whatnot. So you can't predict what's going to happen in the future, and that is the reason that uh, it's very interesting to me per se, because it gives you the maximum scope for creativity, and it's like the best form of creativity in today's day, I would say, because that's what is the form of art in today's day. And it reaches each and every one of the people in the world, and in a matter of seconds you're in the hands of people that you've never known, and they're experiencing your product, you're able to have their feedback, and the product that you put so much time and sweat into creating is being reviewed by so many people at this very instant. So that's what I find most interesting, and that's what I've even put into my presentation today as well, to share with you guys that UX design is not something that we can actually uh, put a definition to, or put into a cage, or define in a particular sentence, and that's about it. So that's not the case. As we go ahead, we'll find out that it's a very large sphere, and we can become a part of it in any way that we find innovative and we are able to relate to per se. So I would start with my question about what is UX design. And as I said, that it's both an art and a science, and the way that we combine them gives a platform to create emotional reaction by actually engaging people. So going ahead, that there are so many resources to learn about UX design at the moment, including books and articles, and all sorts of learning information from a variety of individuals, and very prolific people such as Don Norman and Jacob Nielsen. You would find all of their content online, and you can even find a lot of books to read into it. So moving ahead, what we can say about UX design is that it's not just, as I said, one field, but it's a number of activities, a number of processes combined together. And as your career proceeds, or as you tend to find out what you're particularly interested in, there are a number of aspects to it, such as field research, face-to-face interviews, data analysis, product design, personas, features and specifications, requirements gathering, copywriting as well, and managing all of this with the stakeholders if you're working for a particular team or a product. And then, of course, within the product itself, there is interaction design, information architecture, usability. I'm sure all of you would be aware about these terms, and if not, you can always take a note of it and really look into what interests you the most. Um, there's UI design, wireframe, visual design, user testing, and of course, development for a number of engineering students. I would say that would be a starting point as well. So moving ahead, there are all of these different spheres with respect to user experience design that go into creating a perfect symphony of a large spectrum of disciplines. So all of these different variety of, as I said, of different occupations and of different disciplines can contribute to producing a UX design which is catering to the particular problem of the particular use case. And only if all of them come together, as in, if suppose you have a problem at a particular time, and if there is a use case with respect to a brand or their application and their products in store. And suppose if you have an example of the Apple brand. If we look at the Apple brand, if we look at their products, if we look at their softwares, the iOS, as well as the packaging as well, the marketing that they have, the different things related to spatial design in their stores, the communication design, the way they communicate with their users, as well as with any sort of communication that they have, and as well as the ergonomics that goes into designing that actual physical product. And it combines industrial design, it combines electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. Psychology is a very big part of any kind of design. You need to understand where the user is coming from, where the stakeholder is coming from, where the developer as well is coming from, what are the restrictions or the limitations of developing a design, the cost involved in it, the future of the product and how long it is going to last. There are a number of aspects to it that you need to take into account, and then all of them come together and form a collaborative effort towards producing a great user experience design. Moving on, we can look at some UX design principles to keep in mind, to consider the why, the what, and the how of product use per se. So user experience design, as the name suggests, is all for the users. It's a little difficult to depart from being the user and then thinking like depart from being a user yourself and thinking about the majority of the users in question and putting yourself in their shoes. So you really need to be very strong in terms of research and remove as much as cognitive load as possible, because a biased decision is a very painstaking thing to get rid of later on in the process. And that's why validating through each and every step as we go ahead is very important to getting a product which caters to all of the different segments of users. Getting the feedback of the user's actions is very important in order to establish that decision. And also we need to take care that the content that we're putting out in a product is digestible with the user, and that it grabs their attention span, and it's able to keep them interested in that page or in that interaction or in that kind of sphere where they will be interested to move ahead with the product as well. Clarity needs to be there in order to give the users the correct choices for them to make, rather than being confused about how to move ahead, which choice they will be using in order to solve their purpose in that product. And hierarchy plays a very big role in that as well, both through information architecture and visual design. Because information architecture, if you know, and we will discuss probably through examples later, it forms the backbone of each and every product. The way that you go from the different categories into subcategories, and then probably like collections and different features, and then the detailed views of that particular product, and moving on to pictures or information or help. So each and every aspect of that product or related to that service needs to be presented in a way that you would imagine after your research that the user will find most useful. And in order to do that, there are a lot of other factors as well that play. For example, consistency. You need to make the whole design of that product consistent in terms of visual standard, as well as in the form of using icons that the user can actually relate to. It's very easy to come up with new and experimental forms of icons, for example, or phrases even to put into an onboarding, or like with buttons. If you look at your WhatsApp or even your Facebook, you will only have profile written for profile. They could come up with 1,000 synonyms for profile, but they are going to use profile there because it will give you the clear cut instruction as to what that button is going to lead to. And that consistency is very important, so that you are able to relate to all sorts of users, and there is no miscommunication happening. And also we need to give the user some control as well. For example, if a user is making a mistake, like if suppose you have your phone and your memory is full, and you decide to delete a picture which you didn't mean to, but then that will be deleted from everywhere. So you need to give a little bit of signage to the user for each and every activity or an interaction that they go ahead with, which gives them the space to go back and to really think about what they are going ahead with, in terms of if they have actually intended to press that button, or if it's a genuine mistake. And that room of a little bit of a room is required to be presented. And it's even better if it's presented in the form of search and filter options that you really use in things like probably a Zomato, or a place like booking.com or a TripAdvisor or an Airbnb, where you want to sort through all of the different options. There are a gazillion options available for you to go through. You can't do that. So you need to have certain filters with respect to prices, with respect to location, with respect to rating, and even with respect to the colors and different sizes and everything when we go to e-commerce. So having a very well defined and very functional uh, search and filter option gives the user complete control in shortening their goal achievement time to the most minimum. I think that is very important when it comes to dealing with customers who are research based, and they just want to get to their destination as soon as possible. So it's best to provide really clear search and filter options in whatever product we're working with. Keeping in mind accessibility is also very important. Accessibility is defined as the different um, shortcomings that an individual might have, and considering that all users are not the same. Different users might have different skill sets. They come from different demographies. They are of different age groups, genders. And suppose if it's an elderly person dealing with an application, they won't be able to read something which is really small in text. And also the buttons need to be placed, for example, at a good length from each other, so that it's not crowded, and they're able to go to the specific function with ease and without any the least possible mistakes. And that refers to accessibility. And an example for that as well would be through the payment gateways that we have. If you would have noticed, we have a lot of payment gateways that they have a lot of form filling happening there, and you need to insert your card details and different kind of authentication details there. So for example, if I show you the very screenshot of a particular gateway option, bear with me for a minute. I'm not too sure where that is, sorry. So getting back to our design, just a minute please. Right. So, for example, I said that, on Amazon, we have these gateway options. So basically what they do is that they remove the text from within the text box, if you can imagine, and they put that instruction on top. For example, if it's the month, date option, they will remove that from within the text box and put it on top of that text box, so that there are different readers of such apps and such websites for the visually impaired. So if what happens is that if we put that text inside the text box, that reader is not able to dictate that to the visually impaired person. So this is a whole sphere of catering to the differently abled, and accessibility is a very big sphere in itself. And catering to accessibility dimensions and rules and regulations is something that when you work with a professional company and with an actual product, you do have to look at all of these specifications and go through them and make sure each of those specifications is being met with. Finally, we look at less is more. We know that already with, for example, what we look at with Apple, what we look at with Google. The more negative space that you have, it accentuates the priorities that you want to put forth to the user. So that is another option which makes you look at the user journey and actually present a way which is inexplicably, it goes ahead and gives you the right way to move ahead, rather than actually clouding the user with something which is not relevant to them and confusing them about it. Also, finally, focus and the documentation and direction for the product that you're dealing with, and the whole journey to be documented is very important, because as you move along, you will always need to refer back to your notes. And it's not very pretty to look at. You will have loads and loads of papers, loads and loads of sketches, whole notebooks filled up with your rough work, with your research work. You will be going on to a lot of different websites and with different places to gather as much information that you need, and documenting that in a systematic way and putting it together in order to achieve the goal that you're supposed to within the shortest time is something that you should be conscious about while you go ahead with your product design process. So at this point, I would let Swati see if anybody has any questions.
I was speaking on mute, Tarang.
All
Not,
right.
no questions so far. I will let you know once we have a couple of questions, and I will share with them with you definitely. If you want to
Right.
take the poll or something, you let me know. You give me a sign, and I would launch that as well.
Right. So I think we can have a little bit of an interaction with you guys out there and see on what page you guys are at. So can we see how many of you guys are logged in from more than one devices simultaneously?
So, Taran, are you able to launch the poll from your page? I put in the questions there actually.
I see.
It's no worries. If it's not coming up, then we can ask the students also, and I can see in
Right.
the message room also. Any way will work. That's fine.
That's fine. I think I have the polls with me.
All
So
right, brilliant.
yeah. So I think I should launch poll one altogether. All the questions will go out together.
It'll happen one after the other. So you can launch it.
Right. So let's do that.
So students and all of you who've joined us today, pardon me, I know there might be a lot of working professionals also here, and I keep missing on that. So, you would see on your screen a poll that Tarang would have just launched. We would love to hear from you because that will give us a good feedback on what you're thinking, what you want to know further, where you are, a little bit about your behavior, your learning behavior. And thereafter, we can go in that direction. So we would really encourage all of you to, launch and, participate in the poll. And all of those who have joined us via the YouTube live, you can write your answers in the chat. I'm also reading up there and I am taking it up to Tarang as well. So please keep posting there as well. Love to, read what all you're writing. Thank you. Taran, for the benefit of all those who are actually on the YouTube live, if you could also read out the poll questions so they can follow that. Oh, Taran, you.
Sure, of course.
Okay, thanks.
Right. So, for the benefit of YouTubers who are not able to see the poll, let me read out the questions. This is just a way to know what comprises of our audiences today. I've asked, are you logged in from more than one device simultaneously? Yes or a no. And question two is, are you familiar with NN Group? That is Nielsen Norman Group. And the third question is, how many of you are on iOS and how many of you are on Android? So I can see a lot of you have already replied, and we have a lot more people who are on a single device as compared to more than one device. We have a lot more people who are not familiar with NN Group. So I would like to say that it's a really great resource for you guys to go on and learn more about UX and UI design principles and a lot more. I'll share the information regarding the learning portals and different links towards the end of our session. And also, I've asked if it's iOS or Android, and most of you are on Android. So I think I'll end the poll right now, and we can
And
go ahead.
And just to add in, Taran, I was also looking at the, who all have joined us from the YouTube. I was reading through their answers too. So most of them appear to be the ones who are using Android, and they're all using one device only. So they've given an answer no to your first poll question, which I understand that they're using one device only, right?
Right. That's great.
Thanks so much, all of you who've joined us on the YouTube, and you are still making an effort to make it interactive and answering all the questions. Really, we are reading it all, so please keep going on. Thanks a lot, and back over to you, Tarang.
Right. Thank you, Swati. Um, I believe I'm on. Not on mute, that's fine. So I can also see that a lot of you are using Mintra and not many of you are using Fitter. So we'll use that towards the end for our interactive assignment. So I'll end the poll and we can move ahead.
So, Taran, just a little curious, fitter is exactly what? This is also an Indian thing,
Right.
right?
Sure,
Okay.
Swati. So this is a so this fitter is actually an application based in India. It was called Squats before, so it's a community based fitness application where you have a lot of users coming on and trying to become healthier and following a healthier lifestyle and taking up exercise and good
Very interesting.
diet and such stuff, and they have a lot of mentors there, and basically it's an
Understand.
application. So we will understand about the design aspects of it if we can discuss it at a later point.
Brilliant. Sure, Tarang. Thanks very much. And just another, once again, for the benefit of all those who are on the YouTube, Tarang's last question was that how many of you are using or familiar with Mintra website? And the second one that she just talked about is the Fitter website. So I'm reading your answers and we will let Tarang continue with her session. Thanks a lot.
Right, thank you, Swati. So, moving ahead with our next segment, we will discuss what is usability. We have discussed what is user experience design, but we often get confused with respect to what is UX, what is UI, and what is usability. All of these tend to sort of mix with each other. And, if somebody were to ask us, how are we going to explain that? So, what we can define usability as is a quality that it's a quality attribute that assesses how easy user interfaces are to use. The word usability also refers to methods for improving ease of use during the design process. This is again from Don Norman and Jacob Nielsen. And these are, almost foundation fathers of UX design. And they have a lot of books and reference material that you can look up. uh, so basically, when you design for 1,101. That is the kind of format that you should keep in mind at all times, because the ideal application of usability is a design which is customized to fit the needs of a person on the other side of the screen, no matter where they are coming from. You need to keep in view that the user can be from different aspects, and your research will allow you to look at all of the different segments where they come from. So, when you look at usability, there are 5 E's that you should keep in mind to remember, so that you can create a product which is effective, which is efficient, which initiates engagement, which has error tolerance, and which provides ease of learning. So, the learning curve in any product should be reduced to the most minimum, so that the user is not spending time to learn how to proceed, or what to press on, or how to move ahead with this journey. So we can also define or try to understand 10 usability heuristics for user interface design as follows, which is visibility of system status. So when you look at any design, or any page, or the kind of applications that you are on, you should at all times know where you stand. Like, suppose if you're on Facebook, you should know that if you're online or if you're offline, or what is your status. If suppose on LinkedIn, if you guys go on LinkedIn, you can see if other people are actually able to see if you visit their profiles or not. And there are a lot of privacy and all sorts of settings that let you know where you stand on that platform, and how you can alter those settings to suit your requirements. And then we should look at matching between the system and the real world, which is very important, because you need to keep in view that there are actual people using that product. And you should keep in mind that, for example, if you have an Apple Watch, you should always keep in mind that there will be a variety of people who will be using that Apple Watch, or any kind of fitness equipment, or even an iPad or a tablet, or even a television, a smart television as well. Because you should be able to foresee the kind of situations that the user will be in, and match those with your technology that you're putting into that product. So the real world needs to be kept in mind at all times. User control and freedom, that we have already discussed before. For example, if we have an app which is a Netflix, or if you have an app which is an Amazon Prime, you might have a preference between either of the two, and all that comes down to A, the content obviously, and B, the journey that you've had with that product per se, how much control you're able to access within that product, and how it is letting you achieve your goal in the least possible time, and it's taking the least time from your life in order to go ahead with the processes involved in that. So also the consistency and standards need to be met, as we've already discussed as well. All sorts of spatial standards and visual design standards, and color theories, and even aspects related to typography, and all sorts of technical standards, and the font size. There are so many things that need to be kept consistent. The font type as well, it needs to be consistent throughout the application. So all that comes as a part of the UI design. Usability most of the times is relating to more of the UX side of it, rather than the UI side of it, sorry, rather than the UX side. So when we talk about usability, it is relating to what the user can actually see and how he's interacting with the product through his fingers or through his experience with that product. Then we can talk about recognition rather than recall. So, as I said, for example, with the case of Netflix and Amazon Prime, uh, recognition is a very important factor, which goes a long way, because if you are able to scroll from right to left, and that is the way that you recognize, that is the way that your mind functions as well, and that is the way that you've been doing things all your life. So recognizing that is very important, and you can't have a system which is opposite to that recognition that you've had all this while. So as a user and as a builder of the product, you need to be on the same page as to what are the common practices, or where is the user coming from in terms of familiarity as well. Then we have flexibility and efficiency of use, which also we have discussed, I guess. You're able to change the filters, or tweak the product according to your requirement. Aesthetic and minimalist design again, and helping the users recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. As I said, that you should be able to go back and forth within the app, you should be able to manage your way within the application or the website, and providing breadcrumbs, for example, in a website such as an e-commerce website, is very important, so that you can go back to, say, sports equipment, or a particular the section of the sports equipment, back and forth very easily. So that is also something that you should keep in mind. And then, of course, the help and documentation part of it, you need to keep in mind that if a user is stuck somewhere, how is he able to ask for help, and if that help is being provided to them.
Taran, you let us know if you want to break few minutes for a couple of questions.
Sure.
As
Right. If there are any
whenever.
questions, we can take those.
Yeah, I thought so because it's kind of fitting in your first session what you've covered so far.
Sure.
So a question from Vedant. Does the role of the UI UX designer also sort of blend in with that of a web developer at any point? Or is it only restricted to coming up with the high fidelity prototype?
Right. So could you just repeat that, please? UI UX designer.
Right. So does the role of the UI UX designer, does it blend with a web developer role responsibilities at any point? Or is it just restricted to a high fidelity prototype? Or we could do this also, Tarang, that we could take a couple of questions and you could merge it and then cover in your next next set of presenting, however you feel suits you.
Oh, sure, I can answer this question right away. So,
Sure.
I would say that the role of the web developer is obviously connected to the role of UX UI designer as well, because unless the design that the UX UI designer has developed is in adherence with what the developer is capable of producing, there is no fruition happening to the process of product designing. So when it comes to high fidelity frameworks and design systems and the coding part of it, uh, every UX and UI designer will obviously consult with the developer before they progress, and that is also a part of the testing. So when we do the low fidelity testing at the wireframe level, we will get a lot of results, and those will be taken into account. And the high fidelity designs will then be made after a couple of more processes, after tweaking the results that you've obtained already. And the role of the web developer per se is very integrated with the whole design process. And they do also need to keep in mind that the at times the designer or the UX UI designer tend to ignore what is actually feasible in life. And there might be constraints with respect to time. There might be constraints with respect to the money that is being spent, or the budget of the project per se. So that is where the web developer needs to give an okay to the design as to, this is the time frame that I will need in order to proceed with the product, and this is the time frame that will be added if we add these three features. And for example, if we have to add a lot of different features, for example, if the UX UI designer comes up with an idea that we need to put a 360-degree view of a shoe on the site of Adidas or Nike, for example. So it will obviously take you into a very different sphere, as opposed to designing for a particular PNG or a SVG that was initially meant to be put up, instead of a 360-degree or a video even of a particular product that has been shot. So when it comes to a web developer, they are the people who will actually define the time frame and the actual the feasibility of a product that has been researched and come up to them. Does that sound okay?
Great. Thanks so much, Taran. And Vedant, if you'll have further questions, you know where to write further, right? Just two more questions I wanted to take, Taran. One is a question from Omar. He asks, how should a student approach UX design who doesn't have any prior knowledge about it?
Okay, this is from who?
Omar. Omar.
Umar.
Yeah.
Umar.
Yes.
Right, Umar. So you have asked a very good question. I have already thought that I will share a lot of links and a lot of resources with Swati, which she can forward on to you guys for reference purpose. And I would like to say that, there are a lot of spaces and a lot of platforms that allow you to learn about UX UI design. There are a lot of certifications as well that you can pursue if you don't want to spend a lot of time or a separate degree for it. There is Interaction Design Foundation, which offers courses on a very detailed level. And there is Nielsen Norman certification as well that you can always pursue it. That one is a little bit expensive, but it gives you a universal standing in terms of UX UI. And online resources are
Right.
plenty, I would say, in terms of learning about UX UI. There are books that you can refer to from Don Norman and, as I said, Jacob Nielsen, which will give you a very well rounded idea and an authentic idea about UX design and all the principles and different aspects of it. There is UX Planet that you can Google, and there is medium.com, which you can read hundreds of articles about UX design and the latest studies coming up, so many case studies and so many analysis of different new techniques and trends that are functioning or coming up around the world. And of course there is Behance or Dribble, where you can check out projects made by peers and all sorts of designers around the world. And there is a lot number of places or platforms where you can look at uh,
And
through the
just
internet.
And here only I would like to add in, like Tarang has shared the exhaustive list of resources, and while she will share it also with me that I can, share it with all you students. Also, I would like to say that, when we are conducting this session, it's part of the NASCOM Adobe initiative. So we have a course that is there for all of you, which is by Adobe, and it's all, certified by the government of India and by NASCOM. And this will be available to all of you very shortly on the NASCOM Future Skills platform. And we also have a lot of, we have a foundational level assessment also, which we are building into it. Again, that is going to be approved by the government of India. And I'll share all of these details with all you students. Sorry, thanks. Over to you, Tarun. Just want to
Right, sorry, this was
thanks.
yeah. So this was, I think, the purpose that we are here today is through future skills, and I think that is a very great initiative. I would say, because I've looked at the course format and the course modules. There are 5 modules in it, and they cover all of the different aspects and all of the different processes that we will look at right away. So all of these processes that I've mentioned over here, these are all covered within the Future Skills program on UX design, which Swati has referred to. And that will be a very holistic view of reaching out to all of you guys. And it's a great platform. You should make the most of it, because this is the first time such an initiative is happening in India, I would say. And it's a really great platform to learn all of the authentic information with respect to UX and UI. So moving ahead, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the UX design process and the different phases that we have in it. I will go through all of them with you to give a holistic idea about the whole entire process of start to finish. So we start with the product discovery, which is the first phase, the part of empathize phase. So when we start with the product, we need to understand where the user is coming from. That is called empathy. We need to be in the shoes of the user and imagine what their journey is and where they're coming from. It is not the actual designing part of it, but it is the research part of it. And this is what I spend maximum time in while designing a product, because it gives you the best idea about whether you're going in the right direction or not. And it will reduce your mistakes and keep you from going into the wrong direction if you do the research part of it well. Next phase is ideate phase, where you go through all of the research material that you have found, which I will discuss shortly. And then you convert that into your own original ideas that you can organize that data into. So you will come up with a new user flow, you will come up with a new information architecture for the product itself, and you will come up with finally the wireframes, which you can then test at low fidelity, and you can even check the heuristic evaluation. And then the later stages into UI design, which would be the create stage, where you would be able to actually use all of the information that you have found within the first 2 stages, and you already have validated those points. And then now you're in a phase that you're creating the actual visual product, and going ahead with making final prototypes for the usability testing, and then finally sending out the final screens to the developer to get on with. So these are the different stages, and it's not necessary for one person to excel in each one of these stages. So as a designer, or as any part of this whole journey, you should be aware of all of these stages, but it's not necessary that you are an expert in all of them together. So, for example, the previous question was that, if there is a web developer, is he a part of UX UI, or is that not a part? So basically, it's, as I said, as we have discussed before, it's an amalgamation of a number of roles. And when you work in a large organization, or a big firm, or even a startup or something, there are different people who are assigned to different phases and different activities that become a part of the whole product per se. There will be different there will be a research team, there will be a design team, there will be a product management team, then there will be a development team and a separate testing team. Usually testing is outsourced, even because most companies find that the most reasonable way to go ahead. So it's not necessary that you would have a detailed knowledge about each and every aspect of this journey, but whatever attracts you the most, or whatever you feel more on the same page with, or it resonates to your ambitions and career, that is the part which you should focus on, and then build upon that, while having a fair amount of knowledge about the whole journey as such. So today we are going to discuss in detail about the first phase of it, which is the empathize phase, which is a part of the discovery of the product, and the first phase of when you get a project on your hand. Then what happens? So we will start with that in all of these 8 steps, and we will discuss these in detail with the different case studies and questions. So let's start with that. So, when you come to product discovery, hello?
Tarang, sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Tarang, a couple of students know they have some classes also and they were anxious with few questions. If you may allow me, could I pick a few of them? Just 2, 3 questions?
Sure, sure, please go ahead.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much. Okay, so there is a question from Purushottam. He asks that, ma'am, can you please explain aesthetic and minimalistic design? Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right. My bad. And you can even take note of it, Tarang, for yourself and probably cover in your later content, even whatever suits you. But I thought I just bring it up for your reference, what our students and what our audience is thinking like.
Right. Of course, we can always take up the question first. That's fine. So, with respect to aesthetic design, I hope that Purushottam is referring to visual design. Is that correct?
Purushottam, you can go ahead and write or raise a hand and I can unmute you here as well and you can directly ask your question to Ms. Tarang. Either or. I haven't seen yet what he wants to ask. Can we hold on to it, Tarang? And okay. Purushottam would like to talk here. So I am just unmuting Purushottam here. Just 1 second. Bear with me, please. Okay, I am asking you to unmute. Purushottam, I think you're unmuted. You can go ahead and ask your
Yes,
question,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
please.
That's my question, ma'am. What I've written in the chat that my question?
Okay. Tarang, I think you were asking something to Purushottam.
Right. That's great. So, when it comes to visual design, as I've discussed before, it comes as a part of the create phase, which is, the part of the end part of it, when you are actually designing the interface that comes to view to the actual viewer. And it has a lot number of principles, but I would like to say that there are probably 5 principles that you would like to keep in mind for sure, which is a visual hierarchy. And that means that, when you look at a page, you should know that what is the topic of that page. For example, in WhatsApp, when you look at WhatsApp, you should know that you are on the chats page, or if you are on the settings page, or if you're actually in a particular chat, and whose chat that is. whose name is there on top. So there is a pattern of visual hierarchy in terms of font size and font color, and in terms of the colors used overall as well. There should be a light background, and there should be a high level of contrast for easy viewing. And as I said, there should be a good amount of negative space behind as well. And the overall balance should be well positioned throughout the page, so that it doesn't look crowded in one portion and then a little spaced out in the other portion. There should be a balance going on throughout the whole application or the whole page, wherein there is equal amount of importance given to things which are equally important, such as chats in WhatsApp, and there is more importance given to the things that require a priority in order to make decisions while being on that product. So there are when you go through the information architecture, for example, uh, there will be a whole lot of I will let you see one example over here. So this is an application which I've designed, and when you look at this, you will see that there is a. I will go through the information architecture first here. So when you look at this information architecture per se, there is there are these headings which you have on the top, which is explore, bookmarks, write out, messaging, menu. So for example, if this is an application which deals with the motorcycle riders and what they are going to do on their motorcycle riding experience, so how will we go about designing the whole application starting from scratch and well into the visual design aspect of it? So if we discuss the journey of the visual design and the principles involved in how do we decide what kind of visual design we are going to give, we will look at the information architecture first. So we will need to give more importance to things which require a decision making or which require a choice happening. For example, if we look at explore, bookmarks, write out, so going on to the application, there will be option to go into different phases of that particular screen. Like you would need those to shout out at you so that you are able to give that instruction to the user that they are able to perform these functions by clicking on those items. So when you look at this page, you would understand that when you click on this icon, there would be search on it, and the whole page needs to be consistent in terms of uh, font type, the font size, weights, colors as well. And you would know that if something is standing out, it requires more importance. Like the most important thing on this page would be this red button. And if you would know that if we make that stand out, the user will understand that the process of recording your ride will stop and start from this very button by pressing it over here. And if you are on the dried out page, that will stand out as a different color as opposed to different other icons, which if you go into, they will have a separate color as well. So these are the different ways and functions in which you need to apply visual design. This is a whole sphere and a whole discipline in itself. You will have a variety of articles to go through and increase your knowledge about visual design if that is something that you're interested in. Basically, and you can go ahead and explore different aspects and aesthetics that are involved within the visual design sphere.
Great. Thanks so much, Taran. Purushottam, I hope that answers your question well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks. Allow me to put you back on the mute,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Oh, I'm so sorry. Was he saying something?
Yeah, yeah. That's great, Purushottam. Glad to hear that.
Tarang, may I take two more questions, please, before we just
Sure.
take on, because I think students are, having a lot of questions here. How nice to know that. And I'll tell you one funny thing, Tarang, and on the YouTube part, all students started looking for the fitter, and now they know about this app, so they're talking about that. So that's
Wow. Okay.
nice to know. Curious kids, they are wonderful ones. Okay, a question from Anagha is that should they know any languages or frameworks, or what are the necessary learning skills required to be a UX designer? So I think her question stresses upon the fact that, if there are any languages or frameworks that are required. And Anaga, if you would like to add in anything here, I'm more than happy to unmute you and you can ask your question directly to Ms. Tarang. So I
Right.
see a hand and you can go ahead, Tarang, please. Sorry.
Okay, so are we having the question from her or okay, I'll just go ahead then. So
Yeah, please.
basically, Anaga, I think in terms of languages, if you're looking at becoming a UX and UI designer per se, you don't really need to know much language in a very good detail, I would say, because that is the job of the web developer. But you must definitely have basic knowledge about how your design is going to function or pan out when it is being developed, and having a basic knowledge about suppose HTML, CSS, and looking at some of the articles available online. I'm not sure if you are into development or if you're into UX UI design. So these are two different spheres, and there are complete languages available to develop those applications which are designed by UX UI designers. And often it is expected for UX UI designers to have a working knowledge of HTML and CSS. So it would be good if you have a little bit of a knowledge about that. And moving ahead, if you develop more interest in it, you could go ahead with learning further languages which are available for development purpose.
Great. Thanks so much, Taran. Anaga has also said thanks very much. So I understand that answers her question. One last question, Tarang, I would just take, and then perhaps we can move on to the next part.
Mm-hmm.
See, all of these are bundled in the same category, so we can skip some of these. And okay, so question from Roma. As a beginner who has been reading many articles about UI and UX, how does one start out designing? Is it suggested that we try redesigning existing products? Nice. And Roma, if you like, I can also unmute you. And I see already two hands also raised here. I will also unmute you. I think, Tarang, they really want to ask you some live questions here. So I don't want to
Okay,
stop them there. Yeah,
great.
over to you. Tarang, do you want me to repeat the question? Or you
Oh,
got?
yeah, I got it. I thought
Oh, okay.
you were
Sorry.
asking somebody to speak.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I
So,
think so.
answering Roma's question about how to start off with going about designing, of course, as you have mentioned, redesigning different applications or different websites that you can look at online, or applications which you are very much familiar with, is a very good place to start. And you can always go ahead and start using Illustrator and Photoshop if you're familiar with it, or you can see a lot of tutorials related to that. And you can very well start off with doing your basic research. And you can for example, if you're doing this on your own, you can take a product and you can have your friends answer a few questions which you have come up with as a part of the user interview and survey, with respect to the working of that application, and with respect to how they're responding and how much time they're taking to move from one page to the other. And if asking them questions about what would be the feature that they would like on that particular application or product. For example, if you have any product, you can just go ahead and start and look at different features that it has. I can show you a little bit of an example as well, right? So for example, if we look at something of this sort, that we are having a page of some sort of shopping experience happening on an e-commerce mobile application. So we have different varieties of competitors over there that you can always check out. And for example, if you're trying to redesign the center one, which is House of Fraser, so if you go ahead and look at this application on your phones, you will be able to analyze it very deeply, and you can compare it with the different competitors that you have, and you can create your whole document in order to process the information that you're collecting. And then you can point out, and note down all of the different kind of improvements that you suggest, that you can make the changes in that thing. And you can always note that down, and then for example, you can reason out why you are trying to make those changes as well, and form this whole document as a part of your portfolio. And when you go ahead and if you go for an interview, or somebody in terms of getting a job, or going out and looking out for new opportunities, this will always play a very good role if you're lacking out on experience as starters. So this will give you a very good opportunity to showcase your talent, and kind of level out with the less experience if you have that. And this is a very strategic point as starters. You definitely should try that out, and it will help you really to gain confidence, and go ahead and design something which you aspire to do in the future. I hope that helps.
Great. Thanks so much, Tarang. In the interest of time, I mean, we can continue with the session. I see three, four hands that are raised and they would like to ask their questions. Bear with us, please. After a little bit, we would love to take your questions as well. Real apologies for that. Tarang, we can,
Sure.
I guess. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So, as I said, we start with the first phase of research, which is product discovery. So, we start, as I've said in my opening statement, UX design is like a phoenix. So, you know what a phoenix is. Have you guys heard about Harry Potter, or you've read Order of the Phoenix in Harry Potter? So, it's Albus Dumbledore's bird that it bursts into flames, and it disintegrates into ash, and then it rises again and is reborn. So every design I create, or a product that I take up, I look at it in that way. And that you start with something that you have in your hand, which is either the starting product which is already existing, or it is a new product that you want to create, and it's just an idea based on the brief given to you by stakeholders, or your team. And where you start with is that you have all of this information, and then you need to break it down into small bits, and you need to reduce the cognitive bias through that research to the maximum possible level. So this will start with discovery with the stakeholders. You need to actually interview the stakeholders and bombard them with a lot of questions about what they think and what is their vision about that product, because at the end of the day, they are the one who is paying for that product, and they are the one who have initiated this product and will approve it at the later stage as well. So they need to be on the same page with you at all times, and understanding their point of view and documenting it at the very beginning gives you a very big leverage to start off with knowing what your goal or direction is. So understanding the use case is very important. So when we come to the use case, after you are meeting with the stakeholders, or the people who are owners of that product, you need to understand and note down the business goals of that particular product, and you need to make a list of the product objectives particularly as well. So for example, if you have a brand and that has a particular product, so the product objectives and the business goals are two different things. The business goal is a very bigger term, and the particular product objectives, for example, are relating to the particular job that you have at hand. Then you take into consideration the user needs. So you have one phase which is a stakeholder, and the other part of it is the user. So user needs are primal in order to make success out of that product, because you might have the stakeholders telling you to do this, but if you don't resonate with the user, you are not going to achieve that result, because at the end of the day, the user has the product in their hands, and unless they are successful in their journey, you can't move ahead and get on with your goals which are set from the stakeholders side. uh, Combining these two together, you need to take into account the technical backdrop as well. This is where the developer comes into play, and they will define, and according to all of the capabilities and the limitations of that particular project, they will define that this is the place that we are currently at. Suppose if we are developing through PHP at the moment, which is a development and coding language, and we are looking to convert to Java, which is a very a very more it's a much bigger kind of and a much more universally used language. So these are two different technical backgrounds of developing a particular application, that you need to know where you stand, and what is the cost involved in developing through either of these two, and what are the pros and cons related to why would you pick one and why would you want to choose the other one. And you would need to explain that to all of the different stakeholders as well, and it should have a relevant backing, which you will get from the web developer's point of view. So, taking into stock all of these different goals and objectives, you will go ahead and try to analyze what is the heuristic evaluation of the product at hand, and what is the user flow in the present day. What is the UI and the usability testing resulting into? So, presently, if you already have a product which you are considering to redesign or recreate into a new version of it, you need to consider what is the current state of it, so that you know where you want to reach. So next would be to destructure the use case completely. So when it comes to destructuring the use case, you would have been given a brief from the stakeholder as to this is the thing that we need to do. So you need to identify that objective, you need to enlist the different goals within that particular sentence and break it down into tiny mini goals, and analyze each and every aspect of that separate goal. I will give you an example at this point. So when we go ahead and we look at a particular goal that we have for a particular product, what we would like to go ahead and analyze is the problem statement. Just a moment. I am pulling out the right one for you. Right. Okay, so for example, if we have this kind of and a financial application that you might have heard of, for example, Weldify. It's sort of like it's a platform and an application based as well as web based, which would allow you to invest into funds and equity and manage your finances and the sort. So when you start with something like that, you're given a particular brief, and you're given a particular problem to start with. I will share with you the problem itself first. So here we go. Right. So previously, I have shared with you the e-commerce application that we have looked at, which I will show you again. This one. So we looked at these three sort of different applications, and we needed to redesign one of them. So when you're given that task, for example, you would be um, you would be given a piece of information that you would want to break down into different sections. Like we would like you to redesign one of our apps. You may choose the following brands. Your brief is to carry out a gap analysis for your chosen app and present your findings along with your design proposal in your second stage interview. So this is an example of an interview process, or even a task that you, if you were to apply for a job that you would want to take up, and you would like to solve that as a, the sort of an assignment. So what you would do is that you would break it down into smaller pieces and then build them up back with your research as a part of it. So um, moving ahead, the next stage that we would take up is the competitive analysis. So we will look at all of the different competitors of that particular product in the market, and we would analyze what are their pros and cons, what are the the feature wise analysis of it, and how our current product stands in terms of that. And at this stage, I would like to also take up a poll after, if it's available, with respect to, I'm not sure, Swati, if we have another poll with respect to
Or else,
the different.
Tarang, what we can also do is you can ask your question, and everyone, the audience, can write it in the chat room, and I will quickly scan through the answers. I'm reading them all. Even
Okay, that's great.
that could also serve us, and even for same for
Sure.
those of us who are joining on the YouTube, I'm also reading all your responses. So please feel free to shoot your answers there, and I will convey the same to Taran.
That's great. So, looking at competitive analysis, when you have something like, an urban ladder or a pepper fry on your phone, which is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with these two applications, which are selling furniture and home decoration items in India. If you have like two very similar applications, for example, if you have Zomato, and if you have you have a Swiggy. So can you tell me if you prefer a Zomato or if you prefer Swiggy, and how many of you would go for either of the two for ordering food?
I'm going to look into it. I'm getting a very neutral kind of a response. Some are saying Zomato, some are saying Swiggy. Gosh, and all I can think of is food right now. After that, uh, it's Zomato. Zomato wins here.
Okay, right.
Some are saying
So
goats.
I know. So I think it would also depend on whether the restaurant that is your favorite, who is it subscribed to, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
also, I would say on an average, Zomato would definitely be a winner at this point because it is more widespread, A, and B, it has more number of reviews available for you to check out. So when you look at competitive analysis, the theory there is that the best fit wins. The winner is the person who has done the best job. So when you are trying to make a new product, you want to beat the person who's already doing the best. So when you start out, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. What you have to do is you have to look at the cons of the best product available in the market, obviously considering your budget constraints, considering all of your constraints with respect to development, availability of resources, the availability of doing a proper research, and the time framework that you are allowed to as well. So keeping in mind all of these, you would try to make the best job out of your competitors, and you should be able to learn from them because all that information is already out there for you to see. You can always check that out and make a list of what works for your product, what doesn't work for your product, because understanding who your competitors are and what they're currently doing to solve the same problem, it will give you a very big advantage as a starting point itself. So learning about your own and your competitors experiences and evolving every day is key to keeping ahead of the game. So I think we can move ahead at this point. with the next stage, which is gap analysis. I will discuss this as well in with an example as well. The analysis of difference between a technology's capabilities and the user's needs. So where the product is actually standing, and if there is a gap between that and what the user that is using it needs, that is called as gap analysis. So there is a gap between what you are serving the person and what he's willing to eat. So this is usually informed by the user need analysis, which you have done through your user research, as well as you look at various aspects of the design that give you the usability objectives and a development plan to go ahead with. So the end user perspective is what you're looking at through gap analysis based on research and interviews on user experience parameters. So, for example, this is the Arogya Setu app, which I've shared with you over here. It's the onboarding experience that you see when you look at the Arogya Setu app. So, when you open the app, it will ask you to either select English or Hindi or any other language, and then you would be introduced to this app and informed about what kind of features it's giving you. So what happens over here is that the gap between what the user is looking for and the gap between what the product is offering is reduced to the minimum. This is a good feature because it lets the user know to start with that these are the things that you need to take into account. You need to install the app, you need to switch on the Bluetooth and location, you need to set the location to always. So these are the requirements for the app to work, and informing the user that all of these requirements are there beforehand would ensure a smooth journey through the product and reduce the gap to the minimum. So when you look at an app, for example, this same app, you would start with searching the app. You would look at reaching the app from physical artifacts. Where did you pick it up from? Who gave it to you? Did anyone share it to you through WhatsApp or Facebook, or did it come up as an advertisement somewhere, or did you pick up the links from somewhere? And how easy it was for you to find it on your Play Store, find it on your iPhone store as well. So reaching that app from an online interaction, and the journey that how smooth that journey is also very important for the user experience as such. How easy it is to pay for the app, and all of the different aspects, including starting the app. As you see, when you start the app, you see these onboarding screens that take you to the through the basic functions. These go a long way in ensuring the success of the product. They guide the user, and the navigation that you have within the app from one function to the other, through the settings, through the profile, through the different items available for sale. If you're able to filter through them, how easy or difficult it is to actually go through that also forms a part of gap analysis, because the longer you spend on each of these functions with, and you're able to see that through testing. When you test the design at the low fidelity as well as high fidelity stages through tools which are available in the market, such as Hotjar and different Google Analytics tools, you can see that how long a person is spending on a page, what is the bounce rate, what is dissuading him from going ahead, or her, and what is the reason behind a person losing interest in your product. So using all of those insights is very important to see how a person is interacting with the given view of your app, and how happy they are with the journey altogether as such. So looking at an example of this particular feature, we would go ahead and look at, for example, if there is a website which lets you travel, which organizes travel for you. I'm sure we all are looking forward to traveling at some point in our lives, at probably next year minimum. But
Especially thanks to the COVID. We're all,
right, so
yeah.
So when we look at an application such as this is a luxury travel application which lets you plan your destination or experience, or a kind of journey that you want to have at a later point. You're able to see and experience that whole thing through the visual aspect, through the visual screen that you're presented. So if this is a website, you're looking at it on your laptop, you will just see all the elements which are present on the screen in front of you and judge it through that, because that's what you're here for. You're here to do a job. Your job is to book an experience, and you're trying to do that by looking at different elements within that screen. So it should be easy for you to actually, if you look at the drop down menu of let's get started, or say pick a destination. If you drop down, if you hover on this thing, and if you get such a drop down which lets you look at images which are large enough, and if it lets you look at the geographies or the different popular destinations of recent times in terms of pictures which you can easily click and move ahead with. So these are things that would allow you to create a better experience, and stand out from different more subdued or less immersive experiences with respect to this use case, which is of travel. So when you're designing any product, you need to keep in mind the place where the user is coming from. So, what is the background of that user? How monetarily sufficient or comfortable they are? If it's a basic thing that you need, or if you're trying to sell a luxury item. So these are different elements that would go into all kinds of aspects within that screen, including your color scheme, your fonts used, your placement of visual design elements, and your overall information hierarchy as well. So when you go ahead with designing your application, you would want to always keep in mind all of these things to reduce the gap to the most minimum. Moving ahead, I would say we are towards user interviews and surveys. Again, there are different and a variety of tools available in the market, and depending on your comfort level and your familiarity, you can select whatever kind of user interview and survey tool that you can, because that is the most important thing that you can use to design your product and do your user research to a very detailed level. There are different aspects to doing user interviews and surveys. One is behavioral aspect, and then there is attitudinal aspect as well. So behavioral aspect is actual physical things that you're doing. For example, if you're moving your eyes in a particular format, or if you're moving your fingers, or if you're left-handed or right-handed, how many of uh, your users would be like that? And you would need to place a button which is a profile button closer to the the left side or the right side. You need to decide on all of these behavioral aspects. And then there are attitudinal aspects as well, which relate more to the emotional aspect or the emotional background of the user. And that would also let you do a proper research and create a questionnaire based on your target audience groups. For that, we would need to do market segmentation, because you would have a very large number of users, and you can't present the same kind of interview or question to each and every one of them. You might be interviewing a teenager, and you might be interviewing an 80-year-old. So you can't present the same questions to all of them. So you need to divide the market into distinct user database groups of consumers who have distinct needs and characteristics or behavior, who might require separate products or marketing mixes or even accessibility options. So you need to identify the entire target audience group on the basis of data, identify and create segments within that target group. For example, if you're making an application which allows you to book appointments with your doctor, or your medical practitioner, you would have different segments with respect to, there would be the patients first, of course, there would be the doctors who would be answering your queries and booking your appointments, there would be nurses. So the kind of questions that you have for all of these different sorts of people would be different based on their demography. So you need to develop clear engagement strategies for each of those separate segments based on the distinct needs and behaviors that they are coming from. So if it's a patient and if it's a doctor, what sort of a time limit they have, they how much time they want to spend on that application on the back end, the admin portal, which would be used by the doctors and nurses, and customer portal which would be used by the patients. So you need to keep in mind who is using what portal, how much design element is going into what, and what are their priorities in terms of achieving the best possible outcome in the minimum possible time. So and then you deliver these research findings for your different kind of different documentation that you would do ahead, and present that to your stakeholders in order to go ahead with the decisions that you will take on this basis, right? I think we will move ahead now with the user personas. So when you do all of these user interviews, you have created the market segments into different groups, as I said. And then when you create user personas, what you are doing is you are consumer profiling for authentic insights for each of these separate segments. What are the particular insights? What is the representation of that type of a user? You're basically synthesizing all of your user research. So based on your research, and it contains this persona page that you will create for each of the segments will contain the needs, behavior, pain points, profile, demographic information, along with excerpts from the actual experiences. Like when you present a questionnaire to a doctor, and if you ask him that what was the most the unsuccessful thing that happened when you used our product, and why were you the most irritated? So he might say that I was not able to I was not able to look at the chat option, and I spent a lot of time trying to send a reply to this patient, and they never got it. And then I had to when I finally found it, I saw so many responses from them, and it really didn't I didn't like it. So this can be like an actual excerpt from the experience that you would only find from a person who has actually experienced it, and you can't make that up, because you can try to be in the other person's shoe to a particular extent, and unless you have actually conversed with the person who's gone through that experience, or who's actually in that profession or in that place, you would not get the authentic feedback in terms of research. So based on the results of the user interviews, we create different personas to each segment, and we these are hypothetical, and they're not actual people, but they represent a whole segment per se. And based on your database as to how many users you're interviewing and how many segments you've got, you will decide how many personas you are actually going to create. And these can be as detailed or as basic as your time and resources allow. So, keeping into account the qualitative and quantitative results, so okay, I can also describe qualitative and quantitative results in a way of the surveys, because that is a different feature of the survey as well. So, qualitative refers to a kind of questionnaire which deals in a very detailed account, and a kind of very particular or specific detailed account of that person's experience with your product, or that person's requirement of your product. So for example, if you're building an application for um, a, a, a an application for, or a website for a person, for a company that sells home equipment, or home the bathroom equipment, or bathroom taps, and the taps and showers and all of these things. So what would you do? I mean, who are your target audience groups? You have manufacturers, then you have the wholesale dealers of that tap, and then you have the retailers of that tap, the marketing people who are dealing with that tap, and then you have the plumbers and the actual tradesmen who are going to fit those taps in the buildings and residential apartments. And then you have the actual users, or the owners of those buildings, or people who live in those houses that are going to use the final product, which is the tap. which is installed on your basin. So with respect to qualitative and quantitative aspects, what you need to keep in mind is that when you send out a survey, there is one thing that you have a small number of users or a small number of surveyors that are taking your survey, and there are a large number of email surveys also that you can do, but that might not be very detailed per se. So when it is very detailed, and it gives you a very good insight into the person's experience, that is more into qualitative. And quantitative refers to something which is a little bit based on the large number, but it's you take into account how many people said what, as opposed to what they actually say, right? So going ahead with that, I think we will have a good idea about how to create personas, and basically, this goes a long way in defining your user journey. That is the next stage of your after the research. What you do is you define your user journey, then you make your information architecture. So personas are the different user journeys that you will create once you are on that phase, right? So, going ahead, we move on to empathy mapping. After creating the personas, what we will do for that persona is we will try to map what that person is saying, what that person is doing, what that person thinks, and what that person actually feels, right? For example, what do they feel about a particular thing or an application that they looked at? Were they anxious? Were they they will need to note this down on on a form or something, to in order for you to document it. So what you're doing here is basically you're visualizing the user attitudes and behavior, which helps the UX team to align a deep understanding of the differentiated end users. This process reveals any holes in the existing user data and aids in prioritization through all of these different post-its. So you will need to have a lot of post-its for this as well, because you're going to put them up all on your wall, and you can always do that on a chart as well, or in your notebooks. I have books and books, and very big diaries filled up of all of the ideas that are collected during empathy mapping, as well as during the brainstorming, which is the affinity diagram phase of it. So as I said, when you disintegrate an idea, that is where you started at. You started with the challenge, you diverged into a lot of ideas that you got in through your research, through your interviews, and then now is the time to sort through them. You want to put all of those ideas into their specific categories. You do a brainstorming session, you have all of your data, all of your sheets with you. There will be sheets and sheets of research with you, documents with you, and if you're doing it on paper or if you're doing it online, you will have a lot of forms to go through. You will go through them with your team, and you will do the brainstorming session, keeping everything in mind, noting down what is most important, putting those points together, and then start sorting them out through affinity diagrams. So when we sort through ideas out that we have collected through all of these processes so far, we will need to sit down and go through them, and then finally sort out that what is the most important thing that we have derived from all of these things. What is the most important change? There might be like 20 changes that you have. You might get new ideas which are relevant, but which might be a lot in number. So the next phase would be sorting of those cards. So you need to know your priorities. You need to the term card sorting itself applies to a wide variety of activities involving the grouping and naming of the objects or concepts. So when you get those ideas about a particular case study or a particular product that you're dealing with, you might get the ideas based on different parts of that journey, the whole process of entering or exiting, for example, the Arogya Setu app would be a lot many opportunities for you to make improvements, or create your customized experience which you have imagined. So there might be probably 50 ideas that you have, and you need to put them together into different phases. For example, this is the update that we can do on the onboarding part. this is the update we can do on the login part. We can place this UI element over here. People have said that, these buttons are too close together, so you need to put all of these updates in the UI pool of ideas that you have. So right now what you're doing is that you are sorting out all of the filtered information or distilled information that you have arrived at, and you are sorting them out into coherent kind of channels in which you can then prioritize and select the few ideas that you are going to actually work with, because you can't work with all of the ideas, and what you would actually work with are only a few. So right now what we will
Uh,
hello, Swati.
yeah,
Yeah,
Tarang, can you hear me? Hello?
yeah.
Okay. Tarang, I was just thinking out loud with you a little bit, since we've overshot a little bit because it's going to be close to 7 by Indian time. Where
Right. We have almost finished here.
Okay, because actually there are a lot of questions also from students I see, and if we want to look at the assignment aspect too, I mean, I was just
Yeah,
thinking
definitely.
if we can do it today itself, or you want to do a short round two also, where you could rather focus on the questions that time. I leave it to you. I mean, we can think about it, and
I can
accordingly let the
definitely
students
take,
do.
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
please,
can
please, Tarang.
take the questions that you have right now. I'm through with the 8 steps that I had for the
Okay,
research
okay,
process.
sure,
Yeah.
Tarang. Okay, sorry. My apologies for breaking your flow. Please go ahead.
No problem. So you can tell me the questions right now.
Okay, sure, Taran. I'll do that. I'll just pull out a couple of questions here. 1 second. Okay, we had covered this. Okay, so there was a question from Devesh Solanki. Devansh. Devansh is asking, ma'am, what is the gateway to be placed as a UX designer?
Okay. Gateway to be placed as a UI. I wish I had an answer to that. And there was a kind of a wish that you would get from Aladdin's lamp, but it's not very easy. I would like to be honest. But there is no sort of gateway as such. But what you can do is that you can start with building up on your profile. You need to start your journey as a designer and as a UX expert, or whichever phase that you're wanting to enter into. You need to be very vigilant, and you need to follow what's happening in the market. What is the role that you're looking to start with as a gateway, I would say. And if you have any kind of credibility to add to your profile, if you have like 2 3 good projects that you've come up with in your profile, and you have those to show to your prospective employers, and they can take those into account while accessing your good fit into their systems and their companies. So your gateway is basically your work and your capability, I would say, at this point. Because unless you are from a premier institute, I would say that's a really good gateway. Get yourself into an IIT or an IIM, and you would be in a good gateway to land a job immediately. That's the trend that goes about. But other than that, you are always encouraged to create more work, be more on the same page with what's happening. You need to work towards it. You need to actually be aware of all the functionalities, all of the principles, because if you have a good hold of your knowledge, then that would ensure that your fruits are met with you. So yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Taran. I see a couple of hands that are raised and they would like to ask you the questions, so we can briefly answer their questions too. I'd
Right.
like to pick the ladies first. So there is Archana and there's Tanvika. Archana, I will go first and I'll unmute you here and you can go ahead and speak with Ms. Taran. I have unmuted. Okay, I think it's kind of 1 second. Okay, I'll try to unmute her. Or Somehow it's not getting. Okay, Sanvika, I was able to unmute you. Sanvika Deshmukh. Okay, I I don't know what's going on here. I'm not able to.
Yeah, may I?
Hi, San. Yes, Sanvika, please.
Yeah, so what do you prefer for Adobe, like Mac or Windows?
Right. So, my preference at the moment has recently been shifted personally from Windows to iOS, because I have had a Windows Dell laptop for about almost 10 years now. I had an XPS when I was in college, and then I kept it with me all this while, and it played a very good companion to me for 10 years. So there was nothing wrong with it, except that it kept piling up with all of my designs and files. So make sure that you have ample space in your device left, and you manage your device, storage and everything well. But either of the two, of course, Apple is very much seamless in terms of accessibility with if you have other devices as well. But in terms of Adobe softwares, I wouldn't say that there would be a world of difference between using those softwares in either of the two platforms. But obviously, it depends on your personal choice.
Great.
That should be all.
Thanks so much, Taran. I think that answers Sanvika's question. I see. I'm going to unmute Vedant because I saw him writing a couple of questions in there. I will let him unmute him so that he can ask all his questions here. One second. I don't know. Somehow I'm struggling a little bit with my Vedant. You can
Yes,
go.
ma'am. Yes. Am
Brilliant.
I
Please.
audible? Yeah.
Yes, Vedant. Loud and clear.
So the first question that I wanted to ask was, ma'am, you mentioned target audience and personas, right? So, like considering a product that you're redesigning has a very wide and general target audience, how do you go about narrowing down on these personas?
Right. So, do you have any example that you would like to discuss?
Um, Ma'am, actually, I can't think of any examples, but like I've always wondered, uh, like when you have products that everybody uses,
Right.
or
Right.
like you can't create a design that works for everyone, right? So how do you prioritize on whom you should cater to more? That was my.
Right. Okay, I got your question. Okay, so what you're trying to find out is that, if you have a number of personas created, and a large number of personas that you can think of, that our product is being used by a wide variety of people. I would say, WhatsApp would be the best example of it, because it's being used by people who are in junior school, and even third, fourth nowadays, and they're used by people who are elderly and our grandparents and everyone. So basically, what happens with the personas and trying to design for a particular segment, and choosing the persona that you are designing for, is that you would need to look at the numbers. Like, obviously, as you said, we can't design for everyone, each and everyone, to the optimum level, but you would need to take out a medium or equilibrium point, that is up to the best case scenario that would work for the particular product, given the resources, given the time, given the amount of the research depth that you have put into the surveys, and the kind of answers that you have gotten through the surveys as well. So you would need to look at the numbers. As I said, quantitative comes into play at this point. For example, if you have more number of people who are actually within a particular age group of, say, like 20 to 25, or say 20 to 30 even, so you would be compelled to, even if you don't want to, you would be compelled to cater to their needs as a priority, with the given limited resources or limited time. So when you design any product, or when you are a part of a big company as such as WhatsApp or something, or Facebook or Twitter, so you're working in an agile fashion. So you're not going to work on each and every separate aspect of it at the same time. So you will be given a very small problem, and you will have to solve that very small problem at that point. So, and that small problem will be given to you as a research based result. And depending on if you're a part of the research team or if you're a part of the designing team, it will have a particular flow. It has standards. You will make the choices based on the right thing to do with the numbers that you have, the research that you have. You will need to make a choice based on what information you have, and there is no other way to it. You would need to prioritize between the options.
Thanks so much, Taran. I'm sure that answers Vedant's question. Oops, there are like so many raised hands now, and there's so many questions still to go. It's
Okay.
it's already 7 p.m. actually. We kind of
Wow.
got the
Yeah.
time. I'm not sure what to do. What I can propose is, because okay, we can still continue for another 5-10 minutes more. I have taken a note of all your questions, students, and I am going to take these to Tarang and ensure I'm going to follow up with Tarang and bug her a little bit so that she can answer all these questions, and I can send them back perhaps to you all. Perhaps nicely drafted out. With our team, we can do this thing. Pardon me, because we probably will not be able to take so many questions now. And now, Tarang, there are even 10 more hands raised. So,
Okay. No worries. I think we can think about it probably at a later point as well.
let's think about it. So I am going to pick one last person here, so that and then we can close on this. I will probably pick Ishan, because I saw that Ishan has been raising his hand for a very long time. Ishan, you can go ahead and ask your question to Tarang. Okay, I think I didn't even mute. Okay, I
Hello,
think
am I audible?
yes, Ishan, you're audible. Please, Ishan.
So, so right now I just recently attended a lecture where they were telling about like how the UIs right now are going about and how you should not go around, rebuilding of the whole structure, like the aesthetic structure. So like today's the visual designs, like even you used in your PPTs, like the minimal human figures that people have been using for their apps and all. So my question basically is like there are certain norms and rules set. Ki you have to have some corner radius, some padding, and some minimal design, and these are the designs maybe you can use or you cannot use. So like how do you make your own design stand out from the whole market outside?
Right. So this is a very tricky question, because you would need to make that decision on your own, consulting with the development team, as I said before as well. Because as you said that there are some minimum requirements as to the profile, all the different icons and the sizes of them, and the way that they appear on the screen, in what size and in what quality. So you would need to keep all those things in mind, and within those limitations, you would need to do your creativity. And you can always tweak the language of the design aspect a little bit towards your favor. As if it's a bell icon, for example, like if it's a standard bell icon that you see, you can always tweak the shape a little bit, or make it a little bit personalized to your style. And if it's as you said, a little bit of padding here, or a little bit of a color there, that difference is all that you can do within that sphere. But apart from that, you can't really make it like standing out as if it's completely illustration based or very detailed, or if you want to showcase your designing skills, you would need to keep that minimalistic aspect in mind if you want that the design to reach and be successful with a lot number of people. You would want to create a very creative design, and you would personally feel that you like it and it goes well with your thinking and your capabilities and your skill set. As I said, the accessibility option, the accessibility aspect of it is very important, because you need to keep in mind what is the skill set of your user. And standing out and everything, that makes sense, but at the end of the day, if your product doesn't pass a testing, then you would be in a spot. You would have to redesign it anyway. So you need to make that call on your own and try to start out with something and try it out. There are A/B testings available, you do those, and then you see how it's working out. So you will get there, with time. Should be fine.
Thanks so much for that, Tarang. And I'm sure that answers this question very well. On that note, I think we will have to, close today's session in the interest of time. Uh, Tarang, I think we covered the assignment part as well, or we are yet to do that.
I think we covered a little bit of it,
Okay.
but the assignment that I really had was, an option to choose from a couple of web and mobile based, brands, such as, either a Big Basket or a Grofers, and a Mintra, or a similar brand, or an Urban Ladder or a Pepperfry. So these are the websites that you could take up, and somebody had asked that, should we redesign it, and is that a good idea? So that was actually my task right now, that you pick up like a Big Basket or a Grofers, and you compare them together and do a gap analysis of it, and point out the pain points that you see in either of those two, or the pros that you see in either of those two, and compare those with one another, to see that what is making sense, what is not making sense, and what would be a good practice and what is not a good practice. And that was the web part of it. And then even in the mobile aspect, you can look at something like a Make My Trip, or like a Sky Scanner, and look at their applications, and see what is the design pattern being used, what is the information architecture, how is it different in those two different brands, and what is the thing that strikes or resonates with you more. So you can do, I mean, this is an activity that I am unable to stop myself from doing whenever I see any product or I use any product, because you go through that experience, you are a user yourself as well, and you need to keep your mind open, and keep in mind that this is a product and we are using it, so let's see how it's working out. So I'm not sure if we should do that right now, or how are we going to do that?
Okay, we can look into that, Tarang. I mean, how we do that. Perhaps I mean maybe a next.
If you have some questions which we had before, we could look at
So
those.
what? So actually, Tarang, there are lots of questions right now. Uh, Perhaps what I will do is, we can scan through these questions. I can share these questions with you, and I have, the register, details of all our students as well, and we can, share it back with them what the responses are. Or we can even look at another, short session, a part two to it, because actually it's 7 p.m. already. So,
Okay.
we've little overshot the session time that was there. And
Right.
on that note, my apologies. We'll have to, close the session today. But be rest assured, all of you who've attended today, thanks very, very much for your curiosity, for your attention, for taking out all this time, patience. You are here. It's been just wonderful having you all. And be rest assured, we are going to be in touch with you. All your questions, I have them recorded. I have really personally taken a note of them, copied it into my, document, and we are going to ensure that all these questions are answered. And perhaps if needed, we can look into another part two session of it, where we can focus upon the answers and the, the practical part of it, the assignments. So thanks very much, all of you, on that note. And thanks so much, Tarang, for joining us today, for, answering the students' questions and, showing them this entire principles, explaining them with such patience, with such elegance that you've explained it. I'm sure all our audience has enjoyed your session thoroughly. We have this session recorded as well, and we will share it with the audience that is today here, so that, for their reference, they can access it again. Over to you, Tarang, for any closing thoughts for this session.
Right. No, I had a wonderful time speaking with you all and interacting. I wish we could have completed the task as well, probably next time. And I'm happy that you all are interested in design and UX design as such. So I would encourage you to go ahead and read up on all of the links that I will share with Swati, and she will forward those to you. And hope
Certainly.
that you have benefited from this session. And have a great day.
On that note, thanks very much, all of you. Have a wonderful day and great year ahead. Good luck to all of you. Thanks a lot. On that note, I'm closing today's session.